Excellency, Madame la Secrétaire Générale, honorable members of the jury, absolutely charming timekeeper, esteemed yet cynical members of the opposition, optimistic members of the proposition, ladies and gentlemen, before I start rebutting what our dear Shadow Prime Minister just said, let's start with a quick psychological experiment. Raise of hands, please. How many of you keep a pleasant memory of the story of Cinderella? Okay. Of the movie Forrest Gump? Quite a few. And of the Star Wars series? Even more. Well, first of all, notice that the inanimate members of the opposition did not enjoy Cinderella, Forrest Gump, or Star Wars. Shame indeed. Second, notice that the great majority of the people in this room have a good perception of these tales, even though Cinderella was exploited by her stepmother, even though Forrest Gump was mocked all his life for being stupid, and even though Star Wars 1, 2, and 3 are terrible, terrible movies. This experience reveals one flagrant fact about human consciousness.
Point, sir.
No, thank you. As human individuals, we judge stories almost entirely on how they ended. And in the exact same way, the way we remember our past experiences is determined by their outcome. Yes, sir.
Okay. Can you tell me if the last page of a book is enough to read a book?
No, indeed, if you listen to what our Prime Minister said, we define the end as the global picture, as the puzzle as a whole. So the final page is not the end in itself. And this is what the motion is about tonight. And you tell us that, well, nothing can be well for everyone, nothing can be satisfactory for everyone. But this motion is not about objectivity, it's about perception.
Information?
No, thank you. And I will talk about the individual, but Paul will later talk about the social, and then Anis will talk about humanity as a whole. So it's about perception, not individual perception, but perception indeed. The characteristic that individuals look at the end in order to judge their experiences is known as the silver lining effect. And as a psychologist, I will try to explain the science behind it tonight. I will first explain how it works before asking why we adopt such a perception of the past. Inspired by Freud and Jung's studies of human consciousness, the silver lining effect explained how humans evaluate their own experiences. As a matter of fact, the psychological process leads people to judge an experience by its outcome, regardless of its duration or intensity. For example, in medicine, a famous study compared how patients remember some of the invasive medical procedure they go through. It so happens that patients have a more pleasant memory of the procedures that was longer and more painful in total, but had the less painful ending. The silver lining effect also explains why restaurants offer candy and chocolate to their customers at the end of a meal, why hotels pay a clerk to hold the door for clients as they leave, or why men tend to overrate their performances in bed. As our Prime Minister said, a happy ending changes our perception of the entire experience. And this is precisely why the conclusion, the outcome of a turn of events is called the moment of truth. Ladies and gentlemen, why do you think this debate ends with appetizers and champagne?
Point of information?
Yes, sir.
Doesn't the end of this debate end with who will win and not the appetizer?
Sorry?
Doesn't the end of this debate end with who will win and not the appetizer?
Well, this is part of the event as a whole, isn't it? And that's why in 6 months, actually, you won't remember a word I say, but thanks to the foie gras, I promise you will keep a pleasant memory of the entire night. All is well, that ends well. Now, why do we adopt such a perception of the past? If we look at it closely, this trait is developed in our psyche from the moment we are kids. Let's take the example of fairy tales. In our fairy tales, all is well that ends well, and yet in all fairy tales, heroes must face great challenge and difficulty. Why is that so? Why don't we satisfy ourselves with a simple carpe diem, like the opposition? Because failure, no thank you. Failure, challenges, and weaknesses in life are inevitable, and one must be prepared for that. In this regard, we in the government are not naive optimists. We look at the facts. We just say that in retrospect, you have to embrace the dark pieces and embrace the puzzle as a whole. And so, Anne here, paradoxically, tells us you have to seize the day, you have to embrace the present moment. But do you really, you, of superhero, people who study engineering, who went through prépa, concours, and embrace piles of textbooks as their closest friends? Fellow opposition, how can you defend seize the day when the mere lack of female members in your team reveals the exact opposite? This shows that somehow you must know that, like Cinderella, your Twingo will one day turn into a golden carriage. Like Forrest, you will not run, but fly with the plane you designed towards the love of your life. And like Luke Skywalker, you will one day master the force of gravity. All is well that ends well, and that is why you accept the struggle now, isn't it? Ladies and gentlemen, because this is the way humans perceive their past experiences, because this motion is the only way to accept the inevitable difficulties of life and move on, and because the opposition themselves embody this principle, I urge you to propose the motion tonight. And as you do so, please rest assured that the joy in our hearts, just like the celebrations tonight, will be truly endless. Thank you.